What's going on, everyone? My name is Liam DeBoer. I'm here with ET Transport, and today we're going to take a look at the highly controversial Keystone Pipeline. With rising fuel costs, many are looking for a solution. So over the course of this video, we'll go over the advantages of building this pipeline for Canada and America, where these countries are currently purchasing fuel from, and why this pipeline is so controversial. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the world of trucking, and let's get into it. It didn't take Trump all that long after being put into office to revise and revive two pipeline projects that most presumed to be dead. 4 days to be exact. One reason these pipelines were shut down in the first place was to address concerns from landowners in tribal nations about potential environmental damage during the construction and possible post-build spills. Another reason is the push from environmental activists and politicians who want to focus on renewable energy and have America move away from fossil fuels. However, it's important to note that Trump's memorandums weren't in activation of the pipelines, but rather in order to look further into the pros and cons that may come with building it. One of those two projects is the Keystone Pipeline XL, which is intended to carry crude oil extracted from tar sands in Hare City, Alberta, Canada, over the span of 1,200 miles to Steel City in Nebraska. This pipeline would then connect to an existing segment that ends on the Gulf Coast. After these environmental concerns were raised about the project, Obama put a swift end to the pipeline in 2015. The most notable concern being that the pipeline would need to cross the Ogallala Aquifer, which stretches all the way from South Dakota to Texas and provides both waters for drinking and irrigation to many states along the way, including Oklahoma, Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, and Nebraska. The fear this provides is that a potential spill would wreak havoc on the public health and agricultural well-being of those states. When pipeline spills happen, they can have monumental effects. For instance, in 2017, a pipeline in Saskatchewan spilled 200,000 liters of oil onto Aboriginal land. On the other side of the coin, the International Energy Agency revealed it is safer to move oil by pipeline than by truck or train, finding that per 1 billion barrel miles, which produces 1,088 gallons of oil, results in an average of a spillage of just shy of a half a gallon. This report also revealed that when comparing potential hazards of a pipeline to rail, the risk of a train incident is double that of a pipeline. Although it is important to keep in mind that just because incidents are more likely with rail, that doesn't nullify the risks of pipelines. A common sales pitch for the Keystone Pipeline is that it will create roughly 42,000 jobs and roughly $2 billion in earnings throughout the United States. That being said, those jobs are temporary, and after an expected 2-year construction plan is completed, there will be roughly only 50 permanent jobs left over. It's also important to note that both Canada and the United States are going through some of the most economically painstaking times in both of the countries' histories. According to a report by Unusual Whales, 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and Canada's numbers aren't much better. So in a time when well over half the country could starve if they don't receive their next paycheck, just because those jobs are temporary doesn't mean that the idea of short-term economic relief isn't necessary. The decision to kill this project might not only limit short-term job growth, but may result in job losses, which Rick Newman from Yahoo Finance has highlighted. He has also pointed out that the fossil fuel sector isn't the only one likely to take a hit, but that this hardline approach to blocking the pipeline could cause hard opposition the other way in the future towards renewable energy initiatives. Another concern that is raised by the Los Angeles Times in regards to the Keystone Pipeline is that it might not make any economic sense anymore. The LA Times argues that building the Keystone Pipeline may cause a sharp decline in oil prices by some estimates as much as 50%, which in turn will take away incentives for oil companies such as TransCanada to build pipelines in the future and look to more profitable sectors like renewables and nuclear. To which I sit and scratch my head, because isn't that a good thing? If we both solve the short-term issue of the highest gas prices and oil prices in history while also providing long-term incentives to look to cleaner forms of energy, just seems like a two birds with one stone situation. Now, while we talk about society and its economy, we often steamroll over the individuals who make up that society. I actually have a great deal of compassion for those who would be affected if a spill were to ever happen. So what's the alternative? Well, we can continue doing what we, the West, have been doing: exporting our carbon footprint. America and Canada are similar in the sense that both countries produce enough oil to be independent, but both countries import the majority of the oil they use. Canada, despite having the third largest oil reserves in the world, spent $18.9 billion importing oil in 2019, And in order of volume, that came from the US, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Norway, UK, and Azerbaijan. On the other side of the border, America gets over 50% of its oil imports from Canada, with Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Colombia following behind them. The big question now is, will this pipeline come back to life after Biden reversed Trump's executive order with one of his own? Russia, according to the EIA, produces 17% of the world's natural gas and 12% of its oil. Seeing as Russia has been aggressively sanctioned by nearly every Western country, there's been a sharp increase in fuel prices, and seeing as it takes fuel to get every product to where it needs to go, all consumer prices have seen the same fate. With inflation already out of control due to the pandemic, there no doubt needs to be a remedy to the fuel crisis, and many believe that this means becoming energy independent. The conversation around energy sources becomes extremely convoluted and partisan, like every other issue, which only creates more issues. It seems our institutions, due to heavy lobbying from both renewable energy and fossil fuel companies, are unable to do legitimate cost and benefit analysis because our politicians are so indebted to their campaign donors that both sides of the aisle have become dogmatic in their approach. On one hand, we have the environmental issues that come with fossil fuel extraction, and on the other hand, we have environmental issues that come with lithium extraction, which are needed for electric vehicles and other supposedly environmentally friendly technology. We often turn a blind eye to environmental issues as long as they aren't happening in our own backyards. For instance, the mining in Chile, which supplies a quarter of the world's lithium supply, has wreaked havoc on the environment and has made it extremely difficult for the 18 indigenous communities surrounding the mining area to source clean water. It's confusing why we have this binary approach to the energy sector, where it has to be all one or the other, and yet nobody, whether your local talking head or politician on the global stage, ever provides credence for nuclear energy. It's far cleaner than coal, oil, and natural gas, and also more dependable than renewable. While the Western world is trying to uproot its fossil fuel industries, China is upping its coal production and use, which is an extremely dirty form of energy, in the hopes of becoming energy independent. According to the Global Carbon Project, Asia emits 53% of global emissions, while North America and Europe are responsible for 18% and 17% respectively. Well, that's all for me, folks. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Should we focus on becoming energy independent? If so, what avenue do you think makes sense? Fossil, renewable, or nuclear? Keep your eyes out for a video tomorrow in which we will break down what Canadian and American officials have to say about the Keystone Pipeline. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with new content, and we'll catch you next time.